Hey folks, Dr. Scott Gray here, the host of Top Minds, where we talk to the top minds in healthcare, business, and life, such as the founder of the Orlando Magic, Pat Williams, and many, many more, and how they're making a difference in the world today. I'm also the founder of 10 healthcare clinics, Gray Marketing Enterprises, and a doctor training business to help them grow their practice to help as many patients as they can. And this episode is brought to you by gmedigital.com. That's Gray Marketing Enterprises, where we help doctors to really get the patients that they need to help so they can focus on those patients and do the best in healthcare that they can. If you want to learn more, go to gmedigital.com. That's gmedigital.com. Today, I'm super excited to have on the show Dr. Mark Dennis out of Houston, Texas, and more specifically, Katy, Texas. His healthcare journey began back in his 20s when he was told that he needed surgery to relieve a herniated disc in his lower back. And he was an active guy all his life, and he knew that he wanted to avoid surgery at all costs. Yet, you know, how could he get out of this pain, get away from the intense pain, and not go down the road of narcotics and muscle relaxers and all those medical type things? And what he found was chiropractic, and it really helped him to relieve his pain and took him on a new journey in life to become a chiropractor. And through this journey, he's been able to learn so much about pain relief and how it can help patients just like you. And now he's working with medical doctors and nurse practitioners to bring regenerative medicine to people in Texas. And so, Dr. Dennis, I'm very thankful to have you on today. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me, Dr. Scott. I appreciate it.
Hey, it's just a pleasure, man, just a pleasure. And so I'm going to start and just ask you, what is something interesting about you that most people don't know?
Oh, God, you put me on the spot right away. Something that people don't know. I owned an advertising agency before I became a doctor. So I was living in Eugene, Oregon at the time, and I got into advertising and you know, I was working for a company doing this, and I just thought to myself, heck, I can do the same thing they're doing and you know, be my own boss. And so I opened up my own advertising agency, and this was, you know, well before the time of social media. So we were talking about, you know, back then, TV, radio, back of the bus, you know, billboards type, yellow pages, if you still remember those things. So yeah, this was a long time ago.
A little bit of a different world back then.
A lot different.
Just looked
world,
a little different.
I see what you do
very
now
cool.
on Facebook, and it's kind of overwhelming to me now. I don't think I would be very successful in it today, but you know, I had fun back then.
So yeah, well, it's still a lot of the same concepts. So I'm sure if you had someone do the technical part, you could probably do really well with it. But let's jump over to the regenerative medicine and just kind of ask, you know, obviously being a chiropractor, how did you get started in regenerative medicine?
I got started, I wanted to balance out, I was trying to get away from a lot of, you know, being dependent on insurance reimbursements. You know, I knew that I would probably never completely get out of that, but I wanted to bring on some cash services that also, you know, fit the criteria of, you know, I want to be a game changer, you know, in people's lives and their health. And, you know, so we brought some weight loss stuff on, we brought regenerative medicine on. I went to a few different seminars at the time, and really, I guess probably what really planted the seed in my mind with regenerative medicine is an interview that Kobe Bryant gave probably about 8-9 years ago now. And he had mentioned that he was going over to Germany to get stem cell, you know, he called them stem cells, regenerative medicine at the time. And he claimed that, you know, it put probably 5 to 6 years onto the end of his career. And, you know, at the time I just, you know, it was interesting. I kind of, you know, put it in the mental bank, but didn't think too much of it. And then when, you know, it became available here, I was very interested and wanted to bring it into our clinic.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I think a lot of us kind of learned that way. We heard about people like Kobe and people like even Peyton Manning and other athletes that have, you know, done stem cell treatment. So definitely see it a lot in sports, and obviously we've seen a lot of orthopedic conditions. So now, do you notice any differences now in regenerative medicine than even when you started? Because this field changes so fast. Like, what differences are you seeing today?
I think that today the patients are much more educated. When I first started out, I was pretty much doing all the talking. Um, a lot of people had never even heard of it before. So, it was very new. Nowadays, it seems like everybody's been to a seminar. At the very least, somebody has turned on the TV at 1 o'clock in the morning and saw a paid advertisement for it. They've done their research online. So I think that people are much more educated, which can be good and bad. But we definitely see people coming in here with they know what they're talking about. They know the right questions to ask, and I think that's probably the biggest difference that I see.
Yeah, I agree. And you're right. That can be helpful. And then sometimes there's this, as we know with the internet and Dr. Google, that there can be some misinformation out there, and sometimes there's some re-education. But for the most part, it works out well, and the patients really come in much more educated. So yeah, I agree with you there. Now, in your clinic, obviously, as you've done this, you've figured out certain ways you like to do things, and your medical doctors, I'm sure, have certain protocols they like. Is there anything unique that makes you guys stand out in how you do regenerative medicine there in your office?
That's a good question, because I don't really know how a lot of different practitioners, practice and do things. I guess probably for me, I really try to, realize who my audience is and explain it to them in a way that they would understand as a layman. I think, and we've all been, I'm as guilty as this as anybody. You go to a seminar on a weekend and you get all excited and you get all this information, and you come back on Monday morning and you just vomit all this information onto somebody that might not have any idea what you're talking about. So I think that, what I try to be, and this is the feedback I've got, is I'm very good at, I don't want to use the word dumbing it down, but, making sure that the patient understands, as a layman, somebody that's not in the medical field, what regenerative medicine can do for them, and how it works, without getting into all the chemistry and scientific jargon that we you and I would understand, but maybe they wouldn't.
Yeah, totally agree. I think a lot of times we think, or we act like sometimes we think the patient wants a cellular biology degree or something, and we just right. Go a little further in detail than we should. So yeah. Now, we've talked about patients, being more informed and knowing more. Let me ask you this: what do you see as the biggest pitfall that consumers need to be aware of when searching for a regenerative medicine doctor or clinic?
I would say, if your doctor is using the word guarantee, if they're using the word, science fiction, miracle, I like to manage expectations. This, I think, is the best treatment out there for most cases. But at the same time, I tell the patient, look, if you don't follow the protocol, if you don't do some of the, the exercise, keep up with the therapy that we give you, if you're not losing your weight, if you're not doing things like that, this is not going to be any better than really anything else. So, I guess, the pitfalls, make sure your doctor, is realistic about what, they can provide to you. Another thing, and this is kind of a case that we had here in Houston for a bit, know what you're getting. We had a doctor here in Houston that was selling PRP injections as stem cell treatments. A knee was going for $6,500, and it was a PRP injection. What can you get a PRP injection for? So, make sure you do your research, do your due diligence, and make sure you know what you're getting.
Wow. Yeah. Very good advice. I had not heard of that situation with that doctor. That's not good. So yeah, do your homework and make sure you know what you're getting. So let's say, in regenerative medicine, all you've done so far, what's a moment you look back on that you're especially proud of, or, like a big success or a highlight with regenerative medicine that, you've dealt with, something that is specific to your practice?
Oh gosh, one big success. It's like asking me to name my favorite kid. For me, there's many of them. Anytime, and it doesn't matter who they are. If they're coming into our office and they can barely walk, they're coming in with a cane, or even if they walk in and they just tell me they can't, do what they used to, enjoy doing, playing with their grandkids, or, walking around the block with their spouse at night, and we can help them, and they come back a year later or 6 months later or what have you, and just tell you how you changed their life. That's always a win for me, and that's always very humbling. I can't, what, let me back up a little bit. I'll tell you, you asked for my biggest success. Let me tell you my biggest failure. And this is something that really drives me and kind of, invigorates me to, that we're doing the right thing based on this. It was a referral. It was a colleague of mine referred a patient of theirs over to me, and he was a younger guy, probably 35 years old, had a previous injury, could barely walk. I mean, he was dealing with this for close to a year. And, he came in, we did a workup on him. We told him about the stem cells. He was all on board with that. He was very excited to do it. We have different financing companies that, we send patients through. He was unable to get in through our better financing company. He didn't want to go through the secondary financing company I had. He was closing on his house in the next week, and he said, when I close on my house, I want to go ahead and do this, and we'll come in and do it. He was in our clinic with his wife, and he had a 14-year-old daughter, and they were both in the clinic, and they were on board. They were excited to get him better and get him back to doing what he was used to doing. And so the week passed, and he didn't call, so I had my office staff call him, and he never returned the call. And we pushed a little bit, but we're not terribly pushy down here. So, after a couple of weeks, we just kind of let it go, and we figured, he knew where to find us, and if he wanted to do it, he would do it. I talked to my colleague about a month later, and she had asked me, hey, did you hear about, I'll call him Mr. Smith? And I said, no, he never called us back. And, he seemed to be very excited, but, he never called back. And she said, he died. He always would take his daughter to school in the morning, and he hadn't been up. And so the daughter went in to check on him, and he was dead in his bed. He overdosed on a narcotic to deal with the pain. And, for me, it was really difficult for me because he did ask me if I would, self-finance him. And I said, we really don't do that here at the clinic. We got a couple financing companies, but if you don't want to go through them, let's just, go ahead and wait till your house closes. And, it's just always something that I think back, what if I would have just, whether he paid me or not, I don't know. I mean, you can all, hindsight's 20/20, but it just, makes me think that, should I have just went ahead, did the stem cell treatment on him? If he, paid me down the road, fine. If not, hopefully he's getting better. But, I guess that just shows me that, we're doing the right thing. We're keeping people, one, away from the narcotics, and two, out of the surgical suite. And, I just, that's the one thing that probably always sticks with me more than a success. I hate to be a downer here on your podcast, but that's kind of what drives me.
No, but it's a good point, because when I talk to my doctors, like the medical doctors in our clinics and nurse practitioners and everything, I always talk about the fact that, we really are, it's like we're out in a boat, and, it's almost like the patient's overboard, and we need to throw them a life raft, right? We need to throw them something to get them up, to save them. And a lot of times you don't have extreme examples like you just gave, but that's the reality of this thing is, we know, I mean, there's documentaries on it now, how narcotics and these things have ruined people's lives, whether it's losing their job, situation like this, or even, losing family members and different things just due to the addiction and whatnot. So, most people think like, oh, that couldn't happen to me, right? But what most people don't realize is a lot of this stuff is, white collar. I mean, it could be your next door neighbor that looks to have everything together, and maybe they're getting a new house, and this kind of stuff can happen. So, although it is kind of a downer story, it's a real story. And, it really is important in how serious we take these things, and how really I do the same thing as I think about that stuff. If I'm talking to someone, like, look, I take it serious, and I want to do the right thing. I want to put out everything we can to save that patient. And because you never know what's going to happen in the long run. So yeah, I appreciate you sharing that, because most people aren't going to put their biggest failure out there, but I think that's a great lesson for everyone to really listen to that. So let me ask you this now. With a lot of the patients that you've worked with, you talked about following protocols and things like that. So people who do stem cells, what do you see are some of the things that help them get the best results? What are some of the things that people can do even right now before stem cells, or when they get stem cells, rituals to kind of help them to stay out of pain in these chronic pain situations?
Yeah, I think the doctor or the physician that is bringing stem cells on, the biggest mistake they probably could make is just, the turn and burn. Oh gosh, I got this patient some stem cells, and then we just forget about them. For our clinic, we're very, you need to do your rehab. We're going to bring you in here. We're going to rehab that joint, whether it be the knee, the hip, the back, the neck, whatever. We're going to do some rehab. We're going to, train those accessory muscles to, carry some of that load. If they're overweight, we're going to put them on a weight loss program. If they're a smoker, we're going to highly encourage them to stop smoking, through a smoking cessation program or what have you. I liken it to, if you go out and you buy yourself a brand new Corvette or a nice, Mercedes, you're not going to buy the stock wheels. You're going to, if you're going to spend that kind of money on, something like that, you're going to go all out. And it's the same thing with our bodies. If you're going to spend that kind of money for stem cells, let's do it right. Let's make your body into, a place that not only will the stem cells do better, if you do take care of those other, outlying aspects of your health, but you're going to feel better in the long run.
Yeah, I love it. And that's, with some of our clinics, we don't have physical therapy, so we refer out for it to make sure that they get it done. And I think you're right, just putting all that together, because it's like, hey, you're giving yourself a second chance, right? You're investing to give yourself a second chance with that knee or shoulder or whatever it may be. And then to just go back and do the exact same thing over again to it is kind of silly. And I actually heard something, it may have been on like a Joe Rogan podcast or something, but it was something to the effect of, I've never heard of talking about losing weight and taking care of your body in this way. And he said, would you rather deal with the pain of, let's say, a half an hour or an hour workout a day and doing that to stay healthy, or would you rather deal with chronic pain and what being lazy and sedentary does to you, and deal with that pain 24/7, have a shorter life, everything's harder and more? And it's like, that's a good point, right? You can choose to suffer all the time or for a half an hour, an hour a day. And when I heard it that way, it's like, oh, yeah, it kind of makes sense to take care of yourself. So I think that's a good thing. And educating patients that, look, just because you're doing this doesn't mean you're going to magically go back to normal. You got to, this is kind of a partnership, right? We're working with that patient to get them the best result and to keep it. So, so where can people go to learn more about you, Dr. Dennis, and your clinic and what you guys can do for them?
The best place to go, if you wait about a month, I'm joining forces with another doctor, and we're forming an integrated practice. It's going to be called Renew Health, and we don't even have a website up yet, but that's where I will post. Answer to your question, I don't. My marketing has been word of mouth. It's been referral. I don't. Really have a website. I'm kind of an outlier in that regard. I probably don't do things the way I should do them, but not a real big social media guy, so I don't have a social media presence. So yeah, if you want to know about me, call me. I'll give you my number. I don't care. But no, in about a month, we will have a true, honest website with, the doctor's bios and all that, and I'll give you a little bit of information about me there.
There you go. Okay, so look up Renew Health with Dr. Mark Dennis, and will it be in Katy, Texas as well?
Yeah, same building, same everything. In fact, I share space with this doctor right now, so it's a real easy transition.
Awesome. And what's the phone number they can reach you at?
281-391-1515.
Excellent. We'll put that down in the show notes below so you guys can contact Dr. Dennis if you're in the area and want to learn more about regenerative medicine and what they're doing, especially with this new venture. So good luck with the new practice, and I'm sure you guys have some exciting things going on, Dr. Dennis.
No, we're very excited. It's going to be gonna help a lot of people, and I'm very excited about this new venture. Absolutely.
That's awesome. Hey, thanks for taking the time on the podcast today, and really appreciate it.
Dr. Scott, I appreciate it. Thanks for having me. Keep doing what you're doing, man. We appreciate it.
Will do. Thanks.
All right. Take care.